The Joe Rogan Experience.
The 180,000 though, a lot of them, it's just because they're trying to find a place, but they're not destitute. A lot of these people are people that had some money. Who
Yeah.
knows what's going to happen with insurance, right?
Right, but
Because
see, that's the problem.
unfortunately, the fire insurance issue in Los Angeles is kind of insane.
It's terrible.
Where, we were talking in the lobby before. I was evacuated 3 times when I lived in L.A. 2 of my neighbors lost their homes. And watching those folks cry in front of the rubble
Yeah.
of where they lived, it's just horrible. But they kept their lives, and and this was 2018, and they rebuilt some of them. Two of the houses are still gone in my old neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
They never rebuilt.
Sorry to hear about that.
They just pulled out. It's just like, what am I going to do? They lose everything. I mean, Mel Gibson lost books from the 1600s. Mel is a very religious man, and he collects like these ancient, irreplaceable books.
Wow.
And then, of course, the loss of lives is horrifying. That issue is an issue that has plagued L.A. and California forever. So a big point of contention during the election and even during the first Trump administration was the use of water, and that water was being funneled into the Pacific Ocean. And now apparently, you could tell me more. You probably know more than I do. What has been done about that water? Because it seems like Trump has changed that.
Well, I think what Trump did a good job of, first of all, I'm grateful for the fact that he flew out, had a meeting, and I'm grateful. And, I have my differences at time to time on some issues with him, but he sat down and he was forceful in a very strong way of holding the elected officials accountable, like get the people back in their homes now. So the fact that in this tragedy we've got a president who's also a builder, who understands what needs to be done, I think is great. And I hope he continues to hold all the elected officials accountable. He can make a big difference, and we need it. On the water issue, listen, I headed up Department of Water and Power, like I said, for 10 years. I have a pretty good understanding of the water issues. What's happening in the north really has not as much of an impact as happening down in Southern California in terms of how the water gets transferred around. It doesn't mean we should be pouring water into the ocean. We should not be. We should be doing a lot of things. We should be collecting water. We should be holding water. We should be recycling water. We should be doing a lot of things. What happened in Los Angeles, which is just close to negligence, if not negligence, Joe, the fire hydrants ran out.
Yeah.
We evacuated our home, and we're in Brentwood, so you know the area. We're 15 minutes from the Palisades where the fire started. And it was my birthday. We were having family dinner. From the second floor, we saw the flames. We said, we're going to have to get out of here. The power went off. We said, we're out. Gathered the family. We moved down to a home we have in Newport Beach. And I get a call from one of my senior executives who's sort of embedded in with the fire command post. And my heart dropped. He said, we just lost your daughter's home. And I said, oh, my God, Banyan, how the hell did that happen, He said, you can't believe it. The hoses ran dry, and the whole neighborhood went up. And I was so angry that Fox 11, the local Fox station, was on with Alex Michelson, and I texted him because they were reporting live. This is about 10:30 at night. I said, are you getting reports that they've run out of water? He said, not at all. And I said, you need to report this. He said, do you want to come on live? I said, yeah, hook me up. And I went on. He couldn't believe it. And some of the media was trying to spin it.
I saw that.
Like it's not true.
Yeah. And then they went right to the firemen.
Went right to the firemen, right?
Yeah.
The firemen said, yeah, we're standing there, empty hoses. How in God's name, the second largest city in the country, can you have a water system that runs out of water in a fire? And you knew this was coming, right? They gave warnings of catastrophic winds. The reservoir's empty, over, I think it was 1.7 million gallons.
I think it's 11 million.
Maybe 11 million?
Yeah.
Probably right. It's empty
Empty.
during fire season.
Yeah.
You've got brush that hasn't been cleared for 40 years. There was a whole bunch of us raising hell about that after the fire in Brentwood 6
Right.
years ago.
Yeah.
Nothing was done. The fire department wasn't pre-deployed, so there weren't engines staffed in different areas. You've got a fire department that's underfunded, and you've got fire equipment that's mothballed,
And then the mayor flies to Ghana.
and the mayor's out of town.
So what should have been done, and who's responsible?
Well, I think the leadership is responsible at every level. I think the mayor's responsible for not being better prepared. I think she's certainly responsible for not staying in town. It's a lack of judgment. If you want to be a leader, the first thing you have to do is be present. I don't know what all the meetings that she had beforehand to make sure everybody was prepared, but years ago the brush should have been cleared,
Yes.
right? And if
Yeah.
you probably couldn't have prevented the fire, maybe you couldn't have prevented the fire. Only God knows.
Well, we don't
But
really
you could have
know.
mitigated it.
We don't really know the source of the fire yet, and we do know there was
Right.
quite a bit of arson.
That's true. That's true. And there was a fire. To your point, there was a fire New Year's Eve from fireworks, and there's some talk that it may have been in that same area that this sparked up again, or maybe it was another arson that went up there.
But it seemed like there was several fires that started very close to each other. It seems
Yeah.
like highly unlikely
Could be.
that there was just 3 accidents that took place at the same time as these catastrophic winds.
Could be.
Then the most sinister version of it is that somebody wanted this to happen. Maybe some mentally ill person. I know they did
It's
arrest.
a sickness. Yeah.
It is a sick. Arsonists they're really sick people.
Yeah.
And it's a known psychological illness. There's a guy that they arrested that was a known arsonist, several times arrested, who had a fake fire truck and drove
saw
down.
that.
Yeah, drove down from Oregon to do who knows what.
Can you imagine?
Yeah, well,
You got to be really.
there's some
really
psychos
sick.
out there. Yeah, there's some real sick
Yeah.
people out there. There's some weird people also that enjoy watching other people lose everything. It's very strange.
Yeah.
But I guess people who feel like they have nothing and they feel like the world has screwed them over and they haven't got the breaks they deserve, they literally want
That's right.
to watch. And there's this entitled culture that we live in that kind of tells people that the reason why other people are successful is because they've stolen from you,
Right.
which is just the craziest
Thing.
to say in America.
But it gives them an excuse.
It gives them an excuse. And it also gives them a pathway to vent their anger and instead point it productively at their own lives. It's like, why am I in this position right now? What could I have done differently?
That's exactly
what
right.
personal responsibility do I have for the way I live right now?
Right.
Instead of that, it's like, no. These rich people, they fucked
Right.
you over.
That's right. They took advantage of us.
Yeah. So the water. Why? What is the explanation for why that enormous reservoir that provides the Palisades with water was empty?
Well, the explanation that's been said is it's out of service because the cover on it needed to be repaired.
Oh, the cover.
The cover. Because, we're very sensitive in L.A. that bad things don't get in our water. So they have to keep all these reservoirs covered, which in general I get. I get the safety of that. But how about this? You know that you have catastrophic winds coming. Start pumping water in it because nobody gives a shit about what's in the water.
Yeah.
When you need it in your fire hydrant.
Yeah.
Right?
Now, that could have been done in probably a couple of weeks.
Whatever it took.
Yeah. And it's not like we don't know. LA has fire season. I remember every year because where I used to live in Bell Canyon is, it's about 35 minutes from LA.
Right.
And it gets rough out there. It's like a lot of like big rolling hills and it gets all filled with grass. And if it
Right.
catches and the winds start whipping through those canyons, the winds in California, for people who don't know, every year we get the Santa Ana winds.
That's right.
And they're crazy.
They are
If
crazy.
Some of them were 100 miles an hour this year. That
Yeah.
is just, if you've ever been out there for that, that's nuts. And if there's fires blowing, boy.
It's a terrible combination. I mean, the early settlers called them the devil winds. Mm-hmm. They've been there forever.
Forever.
To
Yeah.
your point, they've been there forever. So just think about, had the brush been cleared, had the reservoirs been full, had the fire trucks been stationed, had there been a whole series of protocols in place, again,
We could have saved some houses.
you could have saved a lot
Saved a lot of lives.
A lot of lives, a lot of houses, a lot of jobs, a lot of pain.
A lot of pain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah.
So that's just incompetence. There's no way you could say, oh, I see why they didn't do that. Oh,
Right.
I see why they didn't have the resources. Oh, it's not their fault. No, there's
Right.
none of that there. No one's saying that.
That's right.
Everyone
That's
is saying it's a failure.
right. It's a failure because they're not equipped to deal with the leadership they needed.
Even the spin masters, even the greatest of gaslighters have nothing. There's not one person who's tried to pass the buck.
Yeah.
I've not seen one successful person go on the air and say everything was done that could have been done. We have amazing leadership. We're really proud of them. We're really lucky we have them.
Right.
Not one.
You're right.
Not one.
but
That's
I-
kind of crazy.
It is kind of crazy.
Because they gaslight everything, no matter
Yes.
what it is. Everything's safe and effective. Everybody's fine. Everything's great. He's the sharp as a tack. Everything. They gaslight the shit out of you with everything. But with this one, they're like,
But
there's nothing you could say.
I agree with that because the facts are the facts.
The facts are the facts.
You just can't argue around the facts.
And also, there's a thing that happens when an area bigger than Manhattan that's filled with the most liberal people. They're the most liberal. They're the most blue, no matter who. The most like compassionate, like kind people that like view being a Democrat and being a liberal as being the ultimate expression of being a good person. And they're getting slapped in the face by
I think
the reality.
politics have changed. I think the reality has set in, honestly, and it's unfortunate it's taken this. But the reality really has set in that you've got to have competent leadership.
Yes.
And what happened at DWP, because I was there for 13 years, 10 of which I was president, or close to 10, is the head of that department got politicized. Years ago under Bradley and under Reardon, under Hahn, the general manager of Department of Water and Power was always somebody who came through the ranks, who was just this exceptional engineer. And that department was regarded as best in class in the country as a utility, bar none. The best financial rating, the best engineers wanted to work there. It built some of the most amazing projects in history, including Hoover Dam. So let's just start with that one, right? Then what happened? Politics creeped into who was the general manager. That destroys an organization. This is an organization that's not in the business of being necessarily doing what's politically important at the time. It's in the business of delivering water and power. And the failure is also there. I don't understand how the current general manager of the department, I don't know what she did and didn't do, but the kind of failure that's on her desk where the buck stops, she needs to resign. She needs to be fired, in my opinion, by the mayor, and be held accountable for whoever made bad decisions, including herself. But we're allowing this. And so the minute you allow that, that continues this creep of incompetence is tolerated. And it shouldn't be tolerated because people lost their lives. They lost their homes. Right?
Well,
am I right about that?
You're 100% right. And I think you're 100% right about politics. And the problem with politics is that people want to preserve the structure that pays them. They want to preserve the entity that they're invested in, that they have their time in, they have all their connections.
Yeah.
And this is the weird world of politics versus the world of business. And you know, what's fascinating right now is we're getting a chance to see what happens when you take a business approach to the government in the White House. We're seeing right now with this whole U.S. aid thing where they're uncovering massive amounts of corruption and waste and just a lot of weird, shady shit with NGOs and where an enormous amount of money is going. And you're seeing someone look at this thing that is incredibly efficient almost by design. And instead of saying, like, well, this is just how it is, and this is how these politicians get funded, so let's just keep this thing going the same way it is and make some incremental changes to try to make people happy so we still get elected.
Right.
Instead of that, you're seeing a politician, a president who's coming in who can't get reelected, so he's just going ham. and he's just cleaning out everything, and people are freaking out. The same people that say we need radical change.
Right.
We need radical change. We've got corruption. We need radical change. Okay, well, here's your radical change. We don't need this, but
Right.
you do.
Yeah.
The government does. They need oversight,
Yeah, of
and they
course.
haven't had that. And because of that, you're seeing this, not just waste. You could call it waste, but it's deeper. It's deeper than
Yeah.
waste. It's corruption.